Hey all, boardgamerants here, where you'll find everything solo tabletop gaming and more, and today we're going to take a look at Ginkgopolis. From a solo standpoint, recently reprinted. Was it worth it? Let's have a little look-see and I'll tell you on the other side. So Ginkgopolis is a city building, tile laying, tableau building kind of game. Rather abstract. And when you're playing by yourself, you're going to start off with a set of 6 tiles, a set of 6 markers, and a set of 6. These are victory points, basically. And you're going to be playing against Hal. Hal just has a the full supply of his markers. And then you've got the setup out here, which are the tiles of the city, which you'll notice there's 3 different colors. There's red, there's yellow, there's blue. And reds give you more markers, yellows give you victory points, and blues give you more tiles that you can potentially build out in the city. You can only really take from your supply. But there's a big old stack of tiles over here, as you can see. And then I got my markers over here in the general supply that I have to put into my supply before I can put out there. And this city you're going to either be building out or you're going to be building up. So those are basically your two options. The other thing you can do is activate a card. So your turn's very straightforward. You got this deck of cards. This deck of cards is always going to represent face-up tiles, the numbers and color, or these letters where you can build out on. So like, if I flip this over, you can look. So like here's this yellow 2, here's the C, here's the H, here's the red 1. But when you're playing, you'll have shuffled this up, and then when you're playing 2-player, actually, you discard the first 7 cards. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then you would draw 3 for yourself and 1 for the AI Hal. Hal's always going to be building out or building up, and then we would look at our cards and we decide what to do. Again, I would either build out on one of these letters or build up with the appropriate on top of the designated tile, or the other thing I can do is discard it. So if I discarded one of these yellow ones, I'd get either one of a marker from the supply or a tile. Or if I discard one of these cards that represents the tiles out there, you activate basically that group of tiles. So I would get 1 red marker in this case from the supply. And the number that you get corresponds to how high the stack is. So if there were tiles under this, I would get, more than 1 marker. But again, it's all about markers, victory points, or tiles. And that's what these cards let you do. So let's say I decided to, and so you'll pick one and then you'll discard the rest. And what I would do is then build on this 1. So I'd place that there. And there's some rules to doing it, of course. But so whenever you build, you always have to place the number of markers on there corresponding to the height of the tile stack. So there's 2 now. So I had to place 2 markers. And then what I'll do is put a little construction marker on there too. And because what happens is eventually you're going to run out of these cards, and then before you reshuffle it, which you'll shuffle them all, you will add any tiles that you have built out there. You're going to add those to the deck. And so I would add basically a red 5 from this stack, and these are just 4 through 20. Just all in order so I can easily find them. I would add that 5 because I built the 5, and that would become part of the deck that you'd be drawing from. And so this deck of cards and what it corresponds to is going to grow as you build your city. So continue on my turn. So I built up, I added my markers, I did that. Now this would go, whenever you build up, you get to place the card in your tableau. And this says now, whenever I just discard a card to activate it, I'm going to get a bonus marker from the supply. So very nice. And you can get others, the other 2 actions, the one where you build up or the one you build out. You can build up your tableau so you get bonus stuff whenever you take one of those actions. But so I've taken my turn. Now Al goes, and it's just always going to be adding a tile. In this case, is going to be adding the 16 on top of the 3. So there goes that. And Hal just automatically places little tokens and construction. And then Hal gets to keep cards as well whenever Hal builds up. So this would be placed over there because there's endgame scoring that might have to do with the cards in your tableau. So you'll need those for endgame scoring. But then I would go again. So turns are very quick. You just draw 3. Hal always draws 1. And I'll just put a tile there because Hal always never discards a card to activate. Hal always adds to the city. So here my only option is to build out on either I, J, or G. So let's say I wanted to build out on G. So I would discard the other cards. And whenever you build out, you always discard. So I'm not going to get to keep this card either. But so building out on G just means I get to build here. Let's say I take this 5 and I build right there. And then I can put this G either here or here. So that's where the city will grow next, is in that direction. But I put that there. It's only 1 tile high. I add my marker. I add a little construction thing. So I remember that when this depletes, I got to add the yellow 5 to the deck. And then whenever you build out, you activate any buildings you're adjacent to. So not diagonally, but orthogonally, if I'm saying that right. So I would activate this yellow stack of buildings, and it's 2 high, so I would get 2 victory points, basically, for that. So for building adjacent to that. So that's when you build out. That's what happens. And then this gets discarded. Oh, then Hal would get to go. So we just look. Hal is going to build on the blue 1. He's going to build this yellow 7. So it goes right there. And because it's 2 tiles high, puts 2 markers on there, and then puts a little construction thing. There we go. And then, again, would be able to, since he built up, gets to keep this card. So you go and you go and you go. So let's just do another one here. It's pretty darn quick. So there we go. And let's say I want to build on this 3. So if I build this 3, this is nice because I'm going to discard these. Build on this 3. I'm going to place this 8 on this 3, which then I place 2 markers again from my supply. Now I'm running out. I'm going to have to start getting markers here. But I place a little construction thing there. And now I get to place this in my supply. So now whenever I build up, I'm going to get a bonus marker from the supply. So that's how I'm going to start hopefully building up my markers here again. But you got Hal, it's going. All right, it's going to expand on D. So we look, here's D. So we can either go here or here. Well, let's go like that. Hal places a marker, places his construction, and then anything adjacent. So Hal just, instead of getting either more markers or more tiles for building adjacent to a stack of tiles, he always just gets victory points. In this case, he would have anyway, because that only gives you, yellow only gives you victory points. So Hal would have gotten a victory point. So there we go. And you're going to do that over and over again, and eventually going to end up with, well, you'll eventually play through all of these. And once these are all played through, then I'll look in the stack of reds, blues, and yellows, and I'll add the red 15, I'll add a 5, I'll add a red 8, I'll add the yellow 7, and the yellow 16, and the yellow 5. So I'll take those out of the corresponding decks up here, shuffle them into this deck, and then remove these constructions, because now we're able to build on those tiles again. And their corresponding cards will be in this deck to be able to draw and take actions on. And so you'll jockey for position, because the end scoring here is going to have to do with colors that are adjacent to each other are districts. And so part of the biggest part of the end game scoring, or one of the big parts is, so like all these yellows are adjacent. So this is not, and this is not because they're diagonally, but these guys are. You would count whoever has the most markers on them would score all the markers. So basically, Hal has 4, I've got 1. So Hal has the most markers on this district. He's going to get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 points. And me, for second place, I'm going to get just 1 point. I only get to count my single marker. So Hal would get 5 points for that. I would get 1. And then any stacks of tiles that are just by themselves score nothing. So I would score nothing for these because they're not adjacent. But if someone plopped a red tile there like that, let's say Hal did that, well, now Hal's connected all of these tiles. So it'd be 3. I have 4. Hal has 3. So I would get 7 points. Hal would get 3. So on and on you go. And then there's some other. Once you get deeper in here and you start getting into these higher numbered cards, like this says at the end of the game, if you'd built on red 15, you would place this in your tableau. It's an end game scoring, and for all tiles, stacks of tiles that have 3 plus tokens of your color on it, you're going to get 3 victory points. So there's all sorts of little end game scoring cards, and then of course you score your districts, and at the end of that, whoever has the most points, you or Hal, wins the game. And that is a little summary of Ginkgopolis. I like this game. I like this game a lot. I've got 9 plays in now, and I've just started tweaking, the solo, the way it's official is a little static because you just get 6, 6, and 6. So odd numbers to was setting up the omen there, but 6 tiles, 6 of your markers, 6 victory points, and then you go. And I started playing that way, and it gives you plenty to sink your teeth into. But eventually, as I've gotten into my 8th and 9th play, of course, now on my 9th play, I started experimenting a little bit because there's these starting cards that I wanted to use. So now I think I'm going to start using my own variant, if you will, so that I can use all of the game, because the game is definitely one that 2 or 3 in, I don't know. You really have to give it a shot. I think it's one of those games that gets better and better as I play it. And 2 or 3 in, I was kind of like, that's it. I had this similar feeling with Pipeline as well. Those kind of games that have very simple mechanics kind of lend themselves to, when you play the first few times and you get the mechanics down, you're like, what's the big deal? Well, the big deal is there's a lot in those little few mechanics. And that's kind of the brilliance of a good design. And it does take a little time to get to that good stuff, if you will. So going through it, I picked up this game on a recommend from the Broken Meeple, Luke there. And I got to say, it was a good one. And I'm very grateful for that, because I don't know what to expect. This game has a little bit of I'd heard of it, and I'd been interested in it because when it came out, it was one of the few. I don't know. There was some good solo options, I want to say, back then. Was it 2012 or something? Anyway, with this reprint, maybe there wasn't all that good solo options back then. But I didn't get it, and then it was out of print, and you just couldn't get it. So, starting from the beginning, setup and teardown. So when you take this out of the box, you can expect a good 10 minutes because you got to kind of get the cards and everything in the right spot. Then even after you play it, you have to spend about 5-10 minutes sort of separating out cards and stuff. And I got a pretty good system down. I can do it pretty quick. I kind of clocked in at about 6 minutes this last time, resetting 6, maybe 7 minutes. So I got it. You get it. You start to once you know where everything needs to go and you get your little system down to reset the game because you just want to freaking play it again. It can move, setup is pretty good. It takes up about, 2 by 2. It takes up a fairly small space. If you can kind of all cram it together, that the city you're building does expand, but doesn't expand obnoxiously and just take up massive amount. A lot of time you're building up than you are as well as you are out. So setup and teardown is, I just went over that. Table space. I'm reading my list and I'm not thinking about what I've already talked about. Length of play, about an hour, and that's from start to finish. And it is a nice solid hour. The pace of this game is wonderful, and the way you take turns, drawing 3 cards, and then you basically got 3 different actions to pick from. And you kind of, a lot of times it's just, there's a pretty good one, but sometimes there's a good setup one that's better than the good one. And so you have to do a little thinking, but it's not like AP. There's no analysis paralysis. It's just fast. The pace, the time just absolutely flies by playing this game. But again, good solid hour when you're playing solo. The components are good. They're fine. they're good. I have no problem. The cards, I would say this is one of I kind of stopped sleeving cards after, after getting into the sanity. Like every game I wanted to sleeve the cards. And then I kind of stopped doing that because you realize, yeah, you really only play games a handful of times. And then this is one, though, because you use all the cards so regularly, you're probably going to want to sleeve them up. I sleeved mine up after about 5 plays, and because I could just, they were fine. They were holding up, but you just go through all the cards so much, and you're shuffling quite a bit, 4 times maybe each game, that, yeah, that's a lot of wear and tear on a piece of equipment there of your game. So sleeving up the cards, pretty important if you're going to stick with this game and play it quite a bit. And the value was, I paid like, what, $50 I think for this game, and yeah, it was sure, whatever. But again, it's one of those games where once you punch everything out and then you stuff everything back in the box, you realize, you needed half the box really to put the game into, maybe even a third, probably half. Anyway, so value is, I don't know. I would say it's a little below average for what I felt like, what I paid for it. The theme, there is so much. This is dripping with theme. It is not. It is not at all. There is no theme. It's a city building game. It's pretty, and it has a little story to it. And it's cute, but yeah, this is flat out a tile laying city building. Card. There's not like, I don't want to say card drafting. It's not like you're going to build this deck. It's almost like an action selection builder, because you're going to be adding to this deck of cards that allows you to choose your actions each shuffle, and it's going to give you access to the cards are numbered 1 through 20, red, yellow, blue. They all do their different things. Red gets you more markers, yellow gets you points, blue gets you tiles. And once you get to the 10 plus range of those cards, you get into the final scoring stuff. 1 through 9 is your tableau building. There's another. So you just got just a beautiful array of mechanics that are all, I've seen them all before, but I really dig the 2 things: the building up of the structures, because there's a trick to it. If you're going to build on top, you can build on top of a tile that Hal's already built on, but you got to do it a certain way. You got to pay a certain amount if you switch the colors. You have to pay in victory points if you play a tile that's lower in number. You got to pay off the difference. And there's some things that are pretty cool decisions to weigh in when you're building up, which I find pretty intriguing. And 2, you can really take advantage of your tableau. If you've really built up your tableau in a direction, you may want to be building out more than you're building up. And the other thing I really like, again, is just the action selection mechanism of drawing cards and picking an action to do, but you kind of build that deck up too, that you're picking those actions from. So that's a pretty cool little tweaks. Brilliant design. I really like this design. And but I didn't really care for the rulebook. The rulebook was, I felt like it was holding on to the theme too much and trying to use, urbanization for building out and, constructing for building up. You'll notice, like, even when I described, I didn't really use any of the jargon in the rule book because I kind of found it confusing. When I read through the rule book, it's such a small rule book. It's like 8 pages long, most of which is an appendix or an intro or setup. There's I think 2.5 pages literally of rules. That's it. But even so, it was just, I still couldn't quite get it. Like exploit. It's just discarding a card. And if it's one that would have built out, you get a marker or you get a tile. If it was one that would have built up, well, you just got to look at that tile and see how many tiles are on it. Because that's how many of that thing you're going to get, either blue, yellow, or red. It was just very simple once I kind of got rid of, in resources, it talks about resources. Well, really, it's just your colors, your marker in your colors. And you have to have them in your supply. So I guess they're resources. But when I think of resources, I'm like, okay, I'm going to need 2 red and 1 blue and 1, to build a, And so that was like, I didn't like the rule book. And once I kind of simplified it into, oh, okay, I think that's what it means. There's 3 actions. You build out, you build up, or you discard. That's it. You know, it's straightforward. I just wish it had been kind of presented a little more straightforward. But anyway, strategy. There's a lot of luck here. Well, I don't know if there's a lot of luck. There is. But I mean, you can just do some cool stuff, especially near the end. If you got yourself a pile of your markers, you can really, and you draw the right card, you can make a play that scores you a bunch of points and or takes away a bunch of points from Howl. And Howl is tough. Just plain generic, the vanilla variant that came through, I didn't win very often. I think I won once or twice. Just that. And it has a way to play at expert level. And but with the way that I've just started playing it, so that I can actually take advantage of sort of this asymmetrical start that the starting cards offer, and a tableau really to start with, which is cool. It gives you a direction. Well, you're going to score a lot more points that way. So I kind of bumped up Howl to expert level. And actually, it's not that difficult, because Howl does collect the cards that build your tableau. It's not that difficult to give Howl his stuff. You know, you have to take a little extra effort to run Howl, but Howl is so easy to run, the basic solo variant, the official one, that and I'm used to running very complicated solo variants, and even just giving Howl, you know, playing its tableau and then giving him, I don't know, resources when he might get, not resources, but victory points when he should get victory points, or maybe just discarding a tile when he would get a tile, you know, because he doesn't really collect tiles. He just kind of draws them and plays them, draws them and plays them. So there's ways you can easily tweak this and enjoy the whole game. But yeah, I'd be willing to do that. I would certainly, you know, someone that's not really into solo gaming or doing that sort of thing, that might be a bit much. And I think the official is fine. The variant is fine as is. And then, man, if you can manage to beat Howl on normal, bump it up to expert. And, you know, but I may just not be very good at this game. I don't know. So, but through and through, this game is just my kind of game. I like this kind of fast-paced, you know, meaty, awesome, well-designed or integrated, I want to say, sort of standard mechanics, but with little flair, little tweak here and there that makes the game unique feeling. The pace that you play it at. It's marvelous. It's just, and it's massively replayable. You just don't know if you're going to go, you know, with just depending on how your tableau builds up, and then some of the end game scoring cards that you get, have you start building your tableau differently, because you'll score based on the colors of cards you have or the type of you know, tableau you've built up. It's just, it's fun, it's fast, and if you don't mind just kind of no theme at all, and you just like sinking your teeth into some solid mechanics and in a fairly quick, very satisfying solo game. But, you know, but I can see people just being a little dry, you know, in today's gaming. This might come off as a little dry, but I can certainly appreciate everything it's trying to do. And I enjoyed, and it just ain't going nowhere in my collection, I'll tell you that. So, but that's it. Those are my thoughts on Solo Ginkgopolis. If you have any questions or comments, please leave those down below. And until next time, thank you so much for watching. I'm boardgamerants, and I'm out.